Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about a very popular series that I haven't read, which is like the majority of series, so this might be a long video. And if you see me kind of looking to my left here, that's because my laptop is there. My laptop has the list on it, so just don't pay any mind to that. So the first series is Harry Potter. I'm probably the only person on the earth at this moment that hasn't read it. I own the first book, and I don't know, I started it, but I haven't continued it. I don't know. I think for this one, the hype is something that's kind of like turning me off of it, because Harry Potter is literally like everywhere, and after like a amount of time, it kind of gets boring. I don't know, I might give the series a chance. I might even try listening to audiobook and seeing if I like it better there as opposed to having to read, because I know that the later books, they get really big. They get really big. So yeah. The next series is the Hunger Games series. This one is a dystopian novel, and I actually really like dystopian novels. 1984 is one of my favorite books. I don't know, I just haven't really been drawn to the series. I watched the movies. I liked Hunger Games just fine, and I love Catching Fire, but Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 is where it kind of fell apart for me, and I've heard similar things related to the books that, 1 and 2 are good, and then Mockingjay was just like bad. I just haven't been like attracted to it, but I might end up reading this because I have heard that the books are a bit more gruesome than the movies. And with the newest Hunger Games book coming out, which is actually a prequel, and I believe it's following President Snow before, he comes to power, is coming out, I might end up reading this series, but I don't know. The new song, or the new book, I think it's called like of songbirds in something. I'm not sure. I'm not really excited for it. And I've kind of noticed that other people on BookTube aren't really excited for it either. So I don't know. I don't think that is the book to give me the push. My sister read it and she liked it just fine, so I might end up reading it, but I'm just not just nothing that really excites me, if that makes sense. The next series that we have is Divergent. This one, again, I watched the movies. The first one was fine, and then the other two I just despised. I was actually forced to go watch the third movie. I literally just sat in the very top row and just went on my phone the entire time because I was not interested. These books kind of have like mixed reviews. Like, some people love them and other people hate them. And if they're anything like the movies, I don't really want to read it. The only really character that kind of interests me from the movies was Four. I liked him, but I also know this author did a book for Four, so I might just read that one instead of the series. Next we have the Percy Jackson series written by Rick Riordan. This one actually kind of surprises me the most because I actually really love mythology. I love anything having to do with mythology, and I watched the movies. I liked the first Percy Jackson fine. The second one was bad, but kind of in a good way. I kind of like it. But I don't know. I've never been really drawn to these books, but this is a series that I might actually start this year because I love studying mythology and learning about all the gods and that stuff. The only thing that might kind of throw me off, and I think is what kind of has been throwing me off, is that these books, the Percy Jackson series in particular, follows the children of the gods rather than the gods themselves. I don't know, I'm just kind of a sucker for the original gods like Zeus and Hades and all that. I don't know, just following around a group of half-bloods, I think they're called in the book. I don't know. I might give it a try. I probably will give it a try. As well as the other series. I think it's called Heroes of Olympus or something like that. I might give that a try as well. But people seem to really love these books and have said nothing but good things about it. So this one I'm kind of leaning more towards because there isn't so much of a divide there. But at the same time, I'm kind of scared that this is overhyped. This one, you could probably say that I've luckily escaped reading, depending on your view of it. It's the Twilight series. My friend, she actually really loves the Twilight series. It's one of her favorite books of all time, or series of all time. Me, I've never been attracted to it. I was forced to watch the movies, hated them. Like, it was just so bad. Like, and I've heard that the books are actually just a bit worse than the movies, which really scares me. And just from, having written a book about vampires in my younger years, I mean, this is not it. I can respect you taking, like, artistic liberties and trying something new with vampires, but making them sparkle in the sun, like, And then we got the love triangle. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I have actually heard, though, that in the books, like, you will hate Jacob and you'll like Edward better. But still, it's just, I don't like love triangles. And this one, no offense to the author at all, I really respect her, how much she's been able to accomplish with this series, but I just heard the triangle was done so poorly. And, like, the main character I hear is flat. She was flat in the movies, and I was just like, I don't care about anything that happens. I think the only thing that, like, I liked in the movies was the baseball scene where, like, it's thundering and all that, and they go out and they just play baseball. That was a nice, fun scene. I think that's about it that comes to my mind. I don't know. I might just read it to do a review later on about the books, but I don't know if I want to put myself through that. And then we have the Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. I haven't read this one. I haven't read the, what's it called, Mortal Instruments series. Well, I kind of have. In middle school, I read the first book and, like, a chapter of the second book. I liked them then, but I just stopped reading the series for some unknown reason, but I don't know. Like, I might dive back into the Mortal Instruments, but at the same time, I've been told that that's, like, her worst series, and that the Infernal Devices series is better. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like this world might just be overused a little bit, because I feel like she keeps on expanding and expanding, and the world is kind of getting tiresome at this point. And I've heard that they're, like, callbacks to, like, the original characters and all that, and I don't really want that. If I'm going to read a separate series, then I would want it to be focused on those characters, not really on the other ones, just for the sake of being nostalgic. But who knows, I might jump back into it and read it again, but I'm on the fence with this one, like, always. This one, a lot of fantasy people are going to get mad at me. It's The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I also haven't read, like, the Hobbit series or anything like that. I watched the movies. I actually really enjoyed the movies. But the books, they haven't really, like, sparked my interest. And I think I know why. While I like fantasy, I tend to gravitate more towards, YA fantasy. Or if it is, like, an adult book, it's not, like, epic fantasy per se. It's, like, a darker fantasy or something like that. I don't particularly like books with, like, dragons and that kind of stuff. You see it everywhere. I want, like, new species, new characters. I like, I guess you could call them fairies. Like, that kind of world, I guess. Like, The Cruel Prince, that had a pretty cool world. I'm actually writing about a world that has, different species in them, and one of them is actually Fairyan, which is just my interpretation of, fairies, I guess. But I've never really tended to gravitate towards epic fantasy. It's not my favorite genre, but who knows, since I'm kind of getting more into fantasy just in general, I might actually end up finding that I really like this. My sneaking suspicion is that I'm gonna like The Hobbit just a bit more than Lord of the Rings. I don't know why. I think it's because I watched the Hobbit movies first, and then I circled back to Lord of the Rings movies. Lord of the Rings movies, but I don't know. I like both the series, actually. I'll probably just end up reading it sometime this year. Maybe. This one, again, I apologize to fantasy readers, but Game of Thrones, I just haven't read it. Like, I've skimmed a book. I've listened to the first chapter of it. It's well written. You could tell that a lot of, thought and time was put into it, and I can't see why it is so popular. But it's so long. It's so long. And, like, my sister tried to read it, and she's like, it's so boring. So I don't know, I might just end up borrowing her copy and seeing what I like about it, but I've heard that it's a very, very, very slow, methodical book, which I don't mind a slow, methodical book, but at the same time, it's like if I'm reading fantasy, I kind of want some action engraved in it. Like, I understand in terms of like world building and characters, like that's what you have to do. That's why fantasy books tend to be longer, because you have to set up everything. That this one kind of goes just a bit overboard with the breaks in between like action and stuff. I don't know. I've kind of been eyeing this one at the bookstores recently, so we'll see. I don't think so, but if you guys ended up really liking it and telling me about it, then who knows, I might. So this one, I've actually read one of the, I think it's 4 books at this point, maybe 5, I think it's 4. One of the 4 books of the Maze Runner series. I had to read it for school. It was part of my summer reading. I liked it just fine, like it was nothing special. I enjoyed it. I had a fun time reading it, but I don't know, I just felt like he's the special kid, let's hate him and love him and that kind of stuff is kind of overdone, and I kind of got tired with the trope, if we're being honest, in the first book. I didn't particularly like it. I thought the world was creative, I thought the idea was creative, I thought the monsters were really creative. It's just, no offense to the author, but I don't know, I just kind of saw it being like a cliche almost. I might continue to read it since I didn't hate the first one. I read the first one literally 3-4 years ago, so my opinion might have changed, and I don't really feel like rereading the first one, so if I do end up reading it, I'll just jump right into Scorch Trials and see what I think. I've been told that as the books go on longer, the worse that they get. I heard that Kill Order was okay. That's kind of how the movies were for me. I think Scorch Trials was actually my favorite movie of, the 3 that they did. But the last one, The Death Cure, just didn't interest me at all. I was lost. I could care less, honestly, about the last movie. And I've kind of heard mixed reviews about the last 2 books in this series. I might read it, but, it's been so long since I've read the first one that I highly doubt that I'm going to pick it up, now. This one, I apologize in advance because I really don't have any idea what it's about. It's the Selection series. Now, I see this book everywhere, and it's just never piqued my interest. If I'm not mistaken, if I am, please feel free to correct me because I'm an idiot. I think it's about this girl who is... Yeah, this is not gonna work. I need to look up a summary. Okay, yeah, so my thoughts weren't too far off. These 45 girls get selected to compete for a prince, and whoever he chooses gets to marry him. I don't know, I've never been really a fan of the trope, I guess, of, we're gonna choose this bunch of girls, and, obviously the prince is gonna connect with the main character. And not gonna lie, I read, the summary on Goodreads just now. The main character kind of sounds a bit, annoying to me. It's she doesn't want a crown, she doesn't want to go, blah, 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 blah. That trope isn't overly, too used for me, but at the same time, it's I feel like she's just gonna complain throughout the entire book, and it's really just gonna annoy me. And I don't know, this series has never really piqued my interest. The cover is beautiful, I will say that. Each and every cover is beautiful. Yeah, I just looked at it again, and in the summary, it's she starts to question her original plans after meeting the prince. So you obviously know that they're gonna fall in love, but I also know that there's gonna be, her throughout the book going, oh, this is great, but I want my old life back. And then she's gonna be torn between choosing the prince and her old life, and I think she's gonna end up getting both in the end, honestly. I don't know, this series, it just never connects with me. I'm probably never gonna read it, but people seem to love it. It has a 4.14 on Goodreads, and that's pretty good for such a popular YA book. So who knows, I might just read it just based off the fact of the ratings, but I don't think so. And then this one, it was really, really popular when it first came out, and now it's kind of just died down with each passing new installment. But it is the Red Queen series. There are 4 books in the series. I started the first book a long time ago, and like I liked it just fine, but like it wasn't like anything special to me. I actually think that I ended up selling it back to Books A Million to get some money. Um, like I thought it was fun. The world was cool. The powers that they had were cool. The setup was kind of cool, but it's also kind of like, and this is no offense to the author, I like the writing style. The cover is beautiful. That's what really got my attention. It's just there were so many tropes in the beginning. You know, like the chosen one, the one that doesn't know that she has powers, meeting the hot prince, finding out that that prince, you know, has like a secret life or something, like all that kind of stuff. It was only almost like too many cliches, I guess, for me. Um, I don't believe that I'm going to continue with the series. I liked what I read just fine. But it's like nothing that's like urging me to read it. I don't know, unless there are like darker elements that get introduced later on, then that would start to spark my interest. But right now, it's just kind of like point A, point B, point C, point D, without really like any full. I don't even know the word to use. Like I want to say trauma, but that's not right. Like trials without any real, I don't know, trials that she has to go through. Yeah, people are like skeptical of her or whatnot, but she can summon, what is it? It's lightning, I think? We're gonna go with lightning. She can summon lightning, and like, I don't think anyone else has like done that before, so naturally everyone's like, oh wow. Oh gosh, it's been a rough day at school. But yeah, final thoughts on what I've read about it. Liked it just fine. Nothing special to me, so. This is another series that people kind of seem to be like split on. It is the Lunar Chronicles. It's essentially like retellings, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, of like Disney princesses. I know Cinder is like a retelling of Cinderella with like a cyborg. In fact, I have no idea. I have no idea what the other ones are. The second one, from the Goodreads summary, it's like a continuation of Cinder, but I think it's Little Red Riding Hood. That's what it sounds like. Scarlet, the grandmother, is missing. I think that's Little Red Riding Hood, if I'm not mistaken. But I was kind of told that these stories, like, though they're connected, they're not really connected. I don't know. The third one, that looks like Rapunzel. That has to be Rapunzel, right? And then we have an apple. That has to be Snow White. Okay, so yeah, we got Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, and Snow White. I've kind of heard that this series is like connected, and yet like each book it's like its own thing. I've never really been like a big fan of retellings. Essentially, it's just not really my cup of tea. Like, why retelling something that's already kind of, you know, perfect, essentially. But a lot of people really like this series. I actually own Cinder. My grandmother gave it to me for Christmas like 5-6 years ago or something like that. I think I've only read the first chapter. It was fine. I like the writing style. Retellings is just not my thing. I tend to stay away from them. I don't really like them. Like, if I'm going to read a story, I kind of want it to be an original story as opposed to a retelling of a story that's already made. And that's no offense to any author that retells stories. You can do what you want. You know, obviously the Lunar Chronicles is a huge success, so good job for you. Hats off there. But it's just not for me. Then we have the Master Trilogy. People seem to be pretty divided on this one too. Like everyone or a lot of my friends in the school and like middle school, I think even in our early high school days, like they read the book and they love the book, but then you go on Goodreads and I think it's like 3.67, which isn't particularly the best. Like it's good. It's just not as good as like Game of Thrones or some of the other books on this list. So people seem to be pretty divided. So this one sounds like a dystopian too. It sounds like people decide like who you love, where you work, when you die. So like this overruling, bearing society. Usually that really attracts me because like I like stories like that. Again, 1984, love that. The complete control, you know, lack of freedom, all that kind of good stuff. But with this one, it sounds like she has to choose again. Just like in some of the other series that I listed, between like her old life or the new life or whatnot. It's not my favorite trope. I don't know. The cover is pretty. I might read it. You know, all my friends seem to like it. Some people who like stand this book like hardcore. It might be for me. I might have to. I haven't even read like the first chapter of this one. You know, usually with the other books that I've mentioned, except for like Percy Jackson and other stuff, I've read like the first chapter. But this one I've like never even picked up. So maybe if I go into the bookstore, I read the first chapter and I find that I like it, then I might pick it up. But kind of lean just a bit towards no on, just because it sounds really familiar to some of the other books that we've mentioned. Okay, for this one for sure, I know that people are going to get mad at me. I have not read a single Sarah J. Maas book. Throne of Glass series, no. What is it called? The Beauty and the Beast retelling series, I haven't read. I don't know. I've seen it. The books have never really interested me. I think I'm kind of scared that's gonna be, because I've heard people say this about it, that's one of those books where, like, you know, the girl is the main character, which don't have a problem with. I write books that have girl main characters in them always. You know, I don't do the male perspective just because I'm a female. You know, I feel as though I understand the female perspective just a bit more, so that's why I stick to that. So no hate towards, you know, strong female characters at all, like love and power to you. But this one kind of scares me because I have heard that it's like one of those, oh, I'm a strong, independent woman who don't need no man, and then within like the next chapter, like you're having to be saved. And I just don't particularly like that. Like, I get it, it has to happen some point or another. It's just one of those things that's like kind of off-putting for me. It's like, I mean, you could show that she's strong and independent through like actions and stuff. Like, I don't know if you blatantly have to say it. And again, I don't know if she blatantly says it. That's just what I've heard, that like she does, like, and other people say it. But I don't know. I like to think that actions speak louder than words sometimes. So I don't know. I might get annoyed with it. I haven't read the other series, the Court of Thorns and Roses series, question mark. Again, this is a retelling. Retellings are not my favorite. Besides, I've heard that this series is a bit more on the, edge, I guess. I don't tend to gravitate towards those kind of books. I find them kind of cringy, and I don't like them. It almost sounds like the romance in that series is kind of forced, and I don't like it when romances are forced. I like it when it's like just natural flow. But if I were to read a series from Sarah J. Maas, because the series is so popular and successful, it would probably be the Throne of Glass series, just because it centers around a female assassin. I haven't read a chapter from this. I should probably do that. But I don't know. People seem to be pretty divided on this one too. Like, you either love Sarah J. Maas or you hate Sarah J. Maas. And I don't know. I've just always passed by it in the bookstores. But if enough people say that it's good, then I might give it a try. So next one is the Shatter Me series by Tahira Mafi. Ooh, this one, I've read the first chapter of it and I just could not continue. I was actually going to buy it, but I want to make sure that I liked it first. The grammar, it just got to me. Like, I think there was one section where she actually did like a list of things and I had to insert the Oxford comma into the list because there were no commas in the list, which really confused me. Like, there were just like grammar mistakes like that like would bug the crap out of me if I actually, like, you know, read the book. But this one, it's kind of centered around a girl who has powers and she's been locked away, and then one day a boy gets locked in a room with her, and this boy is kind of the stereotypical, you know, I don't care, I'm a brooding boy, I'm a brooding character type of boy, which, you know, I don't mind. I tend to like kind of characters like that are kind of like more, you know, quiet or mysterious. And from what I read, his character was done well. I kind of liked him. I did like him. But the grammar, like, that stuff just kept me from reading it. Some people I know don't like the stylistic choice to do, like, the words where, like, it's, she says something and it's crossed out, and then she says, like, you know, another thing, it's like, I am weak, and that's crossed out, and it's like, no, I'm strong. I know I'm doing a terrible job of it, so I'll put an example of it somewhere on the screen because I apologize. But some people like it. Some people hate it. I was kind of indifferent about it. I thought it was kind of a cool stylistic choice, but I don't know if that would get tiring after a while, just having to read like crossed out, crossed out, crossed out, crossed out. So I don't know where I stand with that kind of stylistic choice. I thought it was cool. You know, I've never seen that before, so hats off to you for thinking of that. Like, bravo. And like, I love the covers. Like, that's the main thing that got me wanting to buy it were the covers. Like, they're beautiful. The original covers we're not even going to talk about, but these new ones, they're so pretty. It's just the grammar. I couldn't get past the grammar. So if I were to read this, I would listen to it on audiobook, but that all depends if I actually like the narrator of the book. I have not tried to listen to it on audiobook, so I don't know if I do like the narrator or not, but that is my rule of thumb, that I have to like the narrator. If I don't like the narrator, then I'll just go out and buy the book. But for this instance, if I don't like the narrator, I'm not gonna buy the book because I can't. I would literally take a pen and like write down like things in there because it's so confusing. And also another thing is that evidently this was supposed to be a 3-book series, but then it was continued on. I think Jesse the Reader said that, and I'll link his description or his channel down in the comments below because I really like him as a booktuber. He's really funny. But I don't know. I feel like if the 3rd book that's supposed to end doesn't end properly and you have to literally create a new book, that it's not the best. So yeah, those were all the series, popular series that I haven't read. If I were to read any, it would most likely be the Percy Jackson series, and maybe probably Hunger Games. I think that's about it though, but I could be persuaded. You know, if you absolutely loved one of the series, let me know in the comments down below. So yeah, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really means a lot to me and really helped me out. Thanks, bye!